Welcome to the Wealth by Choice podcast. My name is Valerie Shirah, and I'm a stay-at-home mom who turned entrepreneur. Each week, we bring you stories and wisdom from individuals who have broken the code to generating wealth. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Let's get started. All right, well, today I have Deepa with me. She is a full-time real estate investor and a multifamily syndicator based in Seattle, Washington. She's a general partner in 1,400 units and a limited partner in 1,800 units in Texas, Arizona, and Florida. She's a licensed professional civil structural engineer and served as the head of an engineering for a utility pole manufacturer. She holds a master's degree in Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering from the University of Missouri, Columbia. It's a mouthful. And I'm really excited to have you here, Deepa. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my God, it's such a pleasure to be here with you, Valerie. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Well, okay, so just reading your bio, you've got a lot going on. I would love to just dig a little bit deeper and maybe tell me a little bit how you got to this point where you've got all of these exciting things going on. Can you tell me a little bit more about, your story?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in India. Yeah, let's go back to all the way when our day I was born.
Yeah, for sure.
I immigrated to the US to get my master's. I had a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from India, and I wanted to contribute more and wanted to come here for my master's in mechanical and aerospace engineering. And I got a free ride. Boeing paid for it. And I wanted to work for Boeing because I did all my research and thesis was research for them. And I was working on reducing the heat affected zone for the body of the plane,
Okay.
the fuselage of the aircraft, by using different welding techniques. But long story short, once I graduated in the Great Depression in 2007, I figured out that after 9/11, Boeing stopped hiring foreign-born engineers
I see.
to facilities where they had defense projects. Not overall, but only facilities where they were doing building aircrafts for defense purposes. And I completely understand. But I got the memo kind of late. so so everybody my plan was to just work for Boeing, and that didn't happen. So I had to pivot. That was my first pivot into civil engineering. And my choices at that time were pack up and go back to India, or find another job and just try to add value here. And I was the very first person from my family to immigrate. Like, I did not know anybody in the country.
Wow.
So I was like, you know what? I want to pave the way and add value. So I found a job in civil engineering. That was the first pivot. And now, mind you, I have no idea about civil engineering. I don't have a degree. So I had to study from scratch. And everything I've done up to that point was learning and designing about things that move, fly. I could weld cars, and I was working on car design and aircrafts. But now it's civil engineering. My job was to build the electric grid, the power infrastructure for the country.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, start from scratch, like grassroots, learn about different load cases and everything. And I started to like it because, I was building the nation's power grid, helping with building the future and the civilization. So I studied hard and tried to get my professional engineering license, because in civil engineering, without an engineering license, you can't really get very far. So I had to apply to get my civil engineering license and flunked the first time. Because, I studied for 3,000 hours. Like, I didn't just take it and miss it. It's an 8-hour exam. And even to sit for the PE, you need to pass another 8-hour exam. There's a prerequisite exam, which is also 8 hours. So I made that one, but flunked the PE the first time. And then made it the second time. But, loved it. And during the pandemic, I got laid off.
Oh no.
At that time, I was working as head of engineering, managing a team of engineers. I got laid off, and then my second pivot was into the financial services industry. And now I run a private equity company and invest in real estate.
Wow, that's awesome. So, okay, just the decisions right there. To me, that's right there. Those are some key decisions that you made, and I'm just curious, like, how did you allow those to push you on and not crumble you? I mean, a lot of people when they hit something like that, I mean, they put a lot of time into a career, and something like that, just to roll off of it the way you did. Was that hard for you?
You know, I don't know. I'm just used to not thinking much about the past and just roll on to the next thing. And I like chasing goals. And I was like, what really pushes me? I sat down and thought about it. And I really like working hard and chasing goals. And once I get that goal, so without having civil engineering degree, having a civil engineering professional engineering license, um, and I'm like I was when I was engineer that was in service. I had 9 states. I was licensed in 9 different states. So I have not really met anyone else that has been able to do that. But the choice, if the failure, if the choices are you move forward or you fail, um, I think I listened to Ra. Gosh, I forget the name of the author, but he says there's no plan B.
You know, you told me that the last time we spoke. It's plan
Yeah,
A until it works. That has really stuck with
yeah,
me. Maybe elaborate on that. Like,
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense because people tend to try it not until it works, but until it gets hard. And that's usually
right,
what pivots people. It's that it's hard, not that it, didn't work. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about how that has shaped your decisions.
right. You know, I grew up in India where there's a lot of competition for everything and come from a very modest upbringing where we had to really fight. And I recollect a time when there was religious tension in the country, or actually the city I was in. Um, we had to, as a family, like my dad had to borrow a few hundred rupees, or I believe it was few $100s, so a few thousand rupees to buy rice
Wow.
to keep us fed, you know? And if we didn't have that, you're really not fed. It's pretty much life or death. It was really not that bad. We were not gonna die if we didn't have the rice. But if your only choices are you work really hard or you perish, then the only viable option there is to work hard,
Yeah,
you know?
that actually really makes me go back to something that I really notice a trend in immigrants tend to do so well in America compared to a lot of Americans who are born and raised in this country. And I've just wondered before, is it that they don't see the value in what they're given? Sometimes it seems like somebody coming from the outside can really see the potential in this country and see the opportunity, whereas, people who are born and raised, they just kind of take it for granted. Is that something that you have found true?
I honestly cannot comment on that because I was not born here.
Sure, sure.
But maybe taking things for granted could be the thing, like you said. The way I see it, because I was even in India, I come from a city in India, but my parents used to take me to the villages to work as day labor. We're not really like day labor, but it was still our uncles and aunts' farms.
Uh-huh.
But we would work along with the day labor and the same timings, eat what they eat, and work the same shifts. So if it was planting paddy or harvesting beans or whatever was going on, um, throughout the school year we would live in the city, and during the summer break we would go work in the farms. Just that experience of working in the farms and compared to life here now, I feel like I've experienced more than a regular person would in their lifetime because we would walk for half a mile to get water.
Wow.
There was no running water, and we would go to the well and we would form a daisy chain of cousins
Uh-huh.
to get water. So I would hand off the empty pot to my cousin, and he would hand off like a full pot of water, and we would just go back and forth.
Wow.
So experiencing that, no running water, no electricity. Like my cousin's house still does not have electricity.
Wow.
Some parts of it anyway. Um, experiencing that to here, you kind of really grateful as to what you have. Just turn the water and turn the tap on, there's water. And I'm really grateful for that because it's not, even now, that infrastructure is not there in some parts of India
Wow.
or rest of the world, I'm sure.
True, very true.
So,
Well,
yeah, so experiencing that, not having much and how much we have now, makes you grateful and want to build on top of it.
yeah. And, my husband and I had the privilege of being able to go to a couple different missions trips. I've been to Papua New Guinea and Honduras. He's been to Guatemala and Amazon. And so, like, being able to go to those different countries and see the way they live and to be able to help, we've done a different missions project, build buildings and stuff because we have some construction in our background. But that really has been eye-opening, and it has really helped me see how much we have. If you're born into this country and you've never really seen anything else, sometimes you don't realize how good you have it. And, just
Yeah.
seeing that has just really helped us, in the way we look at what we have. So I can completely understand some of what you're saying. I'm sure not to the degree that you understand it.
So, yeah, and my son, I have a 6-year-old who was born here, and I want to take him back whenever it's possible and have him work as day labor. The plan was to have him work in India this summer of 2022, but there was dengue going around in India at that time. So I thought, if we live, we can always come back and work in the farm somewhere. So I had to abort that. But the overarching theme is for me to take kids back and have them experience, just so that they don't take what they have right now for granted.
Wow, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. So let's talk about your real estate. So when you transitioned into real estate, what did that look like? How did you come to decide that you were going to focus on real estate?
Yeah, thank you. So it almost occurred by chance. I say that, I didn't actively pursue real estate, but I was looking for options to invest in a tax advantaged investment.
Sure.
And learned about, I'm an avid reader, so in some book I read about syndications, and got introduced to a syndicator. And as I was still working as a full-time engineer and investing as a limited partner, which is why I have more units as a limited partner
Sure.
than a general partner, because I have been investing for a lot longer. And just really loved the idea and dug deep and did a lot of due diligence and learned everything that a LP needs to learn. And just started to add value to the general partnership group. And one day, I just got a call saying, "Hey, Deepa, you have been helpful, and do you want to be on this deal? You will have to write investor reports and be on property management calls and raise capital." And I was like, "Sure." Well, I had a full-time job back then too, so it was rough having a full-time job of managing engineers and working 8 to 5. And after that, I would have to take care of my little one.
Wow.
And once he goes to bed, I would start reading PPMs and learning to underwrite. And as the day I was laid off, I already had about 400 units as a general partner. And I was thinking about, should I go back to work and get another job or just do more of this? And the answer was clear. I was adding value to investors, who's mostly my friends and family. And we were creating jobs and creating good communities for residents to live in. And I thought I should just do this full time and pivoted into being an investor full time.
Wow, that's exciting, and that's awesome that the GP team came to you and asked if you would want to be on that. Maybe for those who are listening who don't understand the difference, can you tell a little bit between the difference between being an LP investor and then being on the GP side?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, in an apartment syndication, where a lot of people come together to buy an asset, usually it's apartments in an apartment syndication, and there's a group of people who make all the decisions. They go out, hunt for the markets, and look for the asset itself, conduct due diligence. If it passes the due diligence bar, buy it. But they need to raise capital for down payment. And if investors like me in the past, I have the money, but I don't really have the time to go out and do all of this, I would just invest my capital. I would leverage the money I have and invest money into the deal. And if that's all I am investing is the capital, then I'm a limited partner. And if I'm on the other side, doing actively doing the things that need to be done, executing the business plan, coming up with the business plan, executing it, buying it, then I would be a general partner.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, what would you say? How would you advise somebody that's just starting out? Because I think this can be a common misunderstanding for people wanting to get into real estate. They think, I'll put some money into it and it'll just start cash flowing, and eventually I'll just replace my job. Do you feel like somebody who's getting into it, they should focus on their profession and become a high income earner and just put the money into real estate? Or do you feel like they should start out in real estate and kind of you have to make your career in real estate if you don't have the capital to put into it? Do you have any opinions as far as that goes?
Yeah, there are people who've made both of them work. And I took the first path, like you mentioned. I was a high income earner, and then I wanted a place for my money to work harder,
Right.
and I found investments that way. But I've met people who just like started to flip homes, and you have to start somewhere.
Right.
So you have to follow a path where you have enough money to invest.
Right.
So whatever you do to make that money, if you start in real estate, become a real estate agent, or if you put in your 10,000 hours and become a professional and try to be a high income earner, you need that nest egg to start to invest.
Yeah.
So it can be done both ways, but for people who are already high income earners, they can be limited partners. But people who have discovered the power of real estate early, they could try and add value and learn more, be in the same field, learn more, and accelerate their time frame to becoming a big investor. And it takes a lot of capital to replace the income.
Right.
If you're a high income earner, right?
Yeah.
You have to invest millions of dollars to get the passive income to replace your income. So it takes a long time. So if you want to get there faster, I don't think you can get there faster either way. You have to start small and then build in real estate, or you have to start in a different profession and put in your time to be a high net worth individual and to go up the corporate ladder and start being an investor. So
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that takes a long time, but it's a short time compared to if you do nothing. If you're just
oh
planning
yeah, oh my goodness,
on
right,
retiring through a job, that's a long
right,
time. And I think sometimes people
right,
see the work that real estate takes and they see the effort it takes and they're like, oh, it's not worth it. But they're not comparing that to if they did nothing. And I think that sometimes
right.
is something that people don't either understand or they don't look at the difference between the two.
Right, right. And what's the traditional in the past, like in the 1950s and 60s, you would just we had come out of agrarian society, and people were starting to come into corporate America, and you're just don in a gray suit and go work for a corporation for 40 years, and for your loyalty, they would give you a pension and whatever it takes. But none of that is alive now.
Right.
How many people that we know in the workforce right now have pensions? The people that do have pensions, they're grandfathered in, but none of the new employees are getting any of those. So we kind of have to make our own path and be loyal to to friends. It's a personal kind of loyalty, not to a corporation.
Right.
Share things, build your network, and be loyal to your friends, and be generous, add value, you know.
Yeah, I think
And
more than
by doing
ever,
that,
building those skills and becoming valuable as a person, you know, yeah,
right,
and there was a day that you would go find a company to work for the rest of your life, but now things change so fast that, you know, having that
right,
ability to add value anywhere you go is extremely important. And even just my
right,
husband and I found out, you know, when we found out that he had Parkinson's disease, that was so eye-opening to us. We realized, okay, we can't rely on his W-2 job the rest of our life, and it was something that we should have seen before, but we didn't until that hit us, and it was like, okay,
right,
we need another plan. We need something, multiple streams of income. We need to be able to have a
right,
backup plan for, you know, if that falls through. So that was, yeah, that's definitely something that we have become more and more aware of.
right. I'm pretty sure that was scary, because if we have full-time jobs, then we are trading our time for money,
Right.
right? And we have only so much time.
Mm-hmm.
We can make more money, but we don't really have a lot of time. And all we are doing is trying to get paid per hour. And when those hours are limited, then when do you have a life? Like, you're working,
Mm-hmm.
and to make that money,
Mm-hmm.
great, you are a high income earner, but when do you really enjoy your life?
Right.
So it's really, really important to build multiple streams of passive income,
Right.
not active, because again, you have only so many hours,
Mm-hmm.
and not just one, but multiple streams of passive income.
Yeah. Now, looking at your whole overall journey, what do you think was the hardest thing that you either went through or had to learn along the way?
Oh my goodness. Um, trying to get the professional engineering license was rough.
Mm,
Um, it took 3,000 hours the first time, and I didn't make it.
mm,
Then I had another, I'm not quite sure, I lost count, but maybe another 900 hours to to crack it. So that was, but any pivot is very hard because you doubt yourself,
yeah.
right? No matter how many times you've done it in the past, you're like, is it going to work? Is it the right decision? The other decision that I had to make to not find another job, especially when I had 4 offers on the table,
Mm,
and had to say no to those streams of income, active streams of income. I was going to get paid every month if I took these jobs, and making the decision not to go that route
mhm,
and try to build something on my own was also, I was like, you have doubts no matter how many times you've been successful in the past.
mhm.
That's in the past,
Yeah.
right? There's really no, you can bet on the person because they can maybe repeat it,
Hmm.
but it's still up to chance if that's going to work.
Yeah.
So every pivot's been difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything looking back that you would have done differently, or that you can see that maybe you would have made a different decision?
Oh yeah, if I would have known that Boeing was not hiring, I would really not target them as my very first employer. But uh, that is to say that we had the pandemic, and nobody saw that
Hmm.
coming. And we will go through recessions, and we will go through ups and downs, but how we pivot and adapt to the times now is what's more important than the plan itself.
Hmm.
And I do say there's no plan B. There's always plan A,
Hmm.
and you work until you're really successful, until there's a regulatory issue. Like, I wanted to work for Boeing, but if they're not hiring, they will not hire me. What do I do? Then there is a different plan A,
Right.
and then you work plan A until you get fired. Like me. Or laid off. No,
Right.
I didn't get fired. But during the pandemic, they completely shut down the whole engineering department, and I was the head of engineering, and they really didn't need a head of engineering if they didn't have engineers.
Hmm.
So you work really hard on plan A, because plan B is a distraction, because
Hmm.
you have an out. in your
I
head.
see.
It's like, oh, if this doesn't work out, then I can always go back. No, you can't go back. Burn the boats. You're done. You work on this until you make it happen.
I love that. So, gathering from everything we've talked about so far, I think one of the key takeaways that I have is just persistence, persisting until you get what you're working for. You know, it may veer a little bit as life just kind of throws you curveballs, but I love the way
Right.
that throughout your entire life, not just once, but throughout your entire life, you've been very persistent in going after those dreams and the goals that you have had. And I love that about you. Now, last question I'm going to ask is, you said you're an avid reader. What are some of the best books you've read? Do you have any that you would highly recommend?
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes. So the very first book that introduced me to the mindset of there is life outside 9 to 5 is The 4 Hour Work Week
Okay.
by Tim Ferriss. It is a big book, but I when I read that book, I had a full-time job, and I would take these long walks by Puyallup River during my lunch hour, and I would listen to this book, and I go, "That's not possible. Like, who makes a living like that? It sounds too good to be true."
Mm-hmm.
But that planted the seed in my mind that there are so many ways
Mm-hmm.
to make money, and the second book is, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Always is it's a game changer. It's the Purple Bible for people with, if you don't know what money is and how to think about money,
Mm-hmm.
that book is a big help. And the third one has nothing to do with real estate or business or anything, but positive parenting.
Oh, okay.
It changed my mind about how to be a parent.
Okay.
So I could see that I was a different mom before reading the book and after I read the book.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I cycled through different categories of business and biographies and parenting
Mm-hmm.
because kids don't come with a manual.
Right, right. That's so true.
So yeah, that, and I would highly recommend Becoming by Michelle Obama.
Okay.
And what that book did for me, and I have like really good reasons for recommending all these books, but they're like my heroes. That book, I was struggling a lot with not having time to do anything. There's 9 to 5. You come home, and you have to take care of the kid, and then you're so tired you go to bed. Like you don't catch a break.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, I was reading Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, and she's so honest about the issues that they had to go through. She had to go through IVF for both the kids, and she had to deal with just raising the kids by herself for the most part when Barack was away. And I was like, oh my God, these are the same issues I'm facing right now. So people who are great, pretty sure don't feel great when they're going through the struggles. But we all go through the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So just understanding and hanging in there and persevering will get us through rough spots.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. Deepa, how can people get a hold of you if they would like to contact you, would like to be able to get to know you better, or possibly invest in you? Do you have a specific way for the people to reach you?
Sure, I'm active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So my full name is Deepa Akula, and they can find me there. And on the website, on our company's website, vinsidecapital.com. And there's a place for them to contact me via website too.
Okay. And we'll also have that in the links of the show notes. So, but yeah, thank you so much for getting on with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about what has made you successful.
Valerie, it was such a pleasure.
Alrighty.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I had a great
You
time.
too. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took the time to invest in yourself and to learn with me today. If you're interested in joining a group of like-minded people, I want to personally invite you to our free networking group where you can make connections and build relationships with people who are working together to generate wealth. Just click the link that is included in the show notes, and I hope to see you there.